Want to guess what class this is from? If you guessed biology, you'd be wrong. Welcome to the Design Comedy. I'm Eric, your architectural designer and draftsman extraordinaire. This week, I want to tell you a story about a weird class that I took about 4 years ago. It was called Integrated Design for Urban. Basically, it was urban design. I didn't really have a bad experience in the class. The class wasn't that bad. It was just difficult for me to follow, and I made it weird. Let me explain. See, I'm more of a pragmatist. That's kind of the way I like to design things. I like to design things to meet a specific need. I want the needs to be addressed first, and then the aesthetic, the beauty of it can follow that. Now, you see, what the college I went to wanted me to do was to think more philosophically, spiritually, metaphorically, and the incompatibility between the way my brain is wired and the way architecture school wanted me to think, it just led to some really weird results. Now, before signing up for the class, we had to choose a section, which is basically, we chose the professors that we wanted and their schedule, and each of them had some kind of theme going. Now, we went to this lecture where the different professors would come up and talk about what their class would focus on. Now, this is all still urban design. I remember one of them focused on something about watersheds. There's another that was about the market, farm to table, how the market shapes urban design. I was kind of hungry that day, so I went with the market one because I figured there would be a higher possibility of food being involved in the class. I was right, by the way. Our site was Eastern Market in Detroit. So I went on a site visit, took lots of pictures. Here's me hamming it up. There were 6 sheds in the market, and there's surrounding buildings. You can see the graffiti, some really interesting art. In fact, we also stopped at the Red Bull House of Art in the market. And they had this sort of basement. It was almost like the catacombs of Detroit. It was pretty interesting. My favorite was Shed 4 because they had the live music and food trucks where we had these delicious loaded potatoes. God, I was hungry in that class. But then we got to loser lunch when there was this nasty smell coming from where we were meeting up to talk about the pictures we were taking. Apparently one of the butchers was improperly disposing of some of their carcasses. So, yeah, good times were had by all. So when we returned to the studio, we had this lab assignment where we had to create these market diagrams based on the map and the pictures that we were taking. It was a psychometric map. That's what we did. So meanwhile, in the studio portion of the class, we had kind of a separate lab portion of the class with one professor, and then the studio portion with another professor. And then eventually the two would sort of come together as we got further along in our final projects. I'm still not sure what kind of distinguished between lab and studio, because it was all pretty experimental and took place in the studio, so I don't know. Anyway, so in the studio portion, we made maps of food-related landmarks in 3 different cities, Detroit, Chicago, and Buffalo. I spent hours collecting data and made these pretty maps about food distribution, the whole farm-to-table thing. So we had like these landmarks, and you get the point. Later, we narrowed it down to pick a market in each city. Obviously, Detroit was going to be Eastern Market because that was our site. And then we each got to choose a market from the other 2 cities. And then we made a bunch more weird maps and sections and stuff. And then we get to this gem. This is the assignment that led me down the rabbit hole of insanity. Pause the video here if you want to read it. Good luck. Now, at this point, we're just focusing on Eastern Market. Basically, we were color coding Eastern Market using 5 words relating to human digestion. Okay, so that's what I did. And then I did this to it. Don't expect me to remember everything in this weird class. All I remember is we had this midterm review. I got stuck on digestion, so I took a laxative and continued my presentation. I still have the notes from the critique. Something about turn the body upside down, strengthen the body's relationship to food, don't be too literal, and to think more abstractly. I got really confused. So I read up on biology, as one does in an urban design class, and when I looked at this diagram of an intestinal fold, a villa, and then this map of Eastern Market showing publicness, I thought, I must be onto something. I can't remember much after that. The professors must have talked me down off my peak of insanity, and eventually I started working on an actual proposal. So here it is, and I'll dumb it down for you. Number 1, expand the bridge over Gratiot. See, a lot of vendors like to set up on that bridge, and it caused a lot of congestion for foot traffic, and I thought, maybe if we made this a bit wider and allowed the vendors to set up without obstructing traffic, that might be a good idea. Like I said, pragmatist. Number 2, drink some tea after a really bad take while making this video, forgetting that the mug's gonna look like it moved. It's been a long week. Number 2, partially demolish this abandoned meat factory. So there's this abandoned building, well, there are a lot. It's Detroit. So there's this abandoned building that's kind of adjacent to the DeQuinder Cut. The DeQuinder Cut is this path that sometimes pedestrians and cyclists like to ride along. And right now there aren't any direct entrances into the market from there. And I thought if I took this building and created a path between the two towers, it could create kind of an interesting looking entrance into the market. Number 3 was to convert this abandoned water treatment facility into an aquaponics garden. So an aquaponics system is basically you have fish in these tanks that produce waste. The waste produces nutrients for the plants, and the plants purify the water for the fish. Wash, rinse, repeat. Sustainability, and then tack on a seafood restaurant. I didn't have a lot of time left after recovering from my bout of madness brought upon by sleep deprivation and being told to think abstractly. Ugh, I basically winged it. I can't find my transcript, but I'm pretty sure I got a C. Wasn't my best class. Sorry to cut this short, but it's been a crazy week, and next week's gonna be even crazier. I might tell more tales from architecture school later on, but for now, draft on, CAD monkeys, and I'll see you in the next video. Oh wait, this is empty. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked that video, please leave a like and click subscribe down below if you haven't already. I upload new videos every Friday, so stay tuned and I'll see you soon, I hope. He's a good girl.